For more on the response to the assassination of Dr. Tiller, how to define it, let's turn to Andrew Sullivan, senior editor of The Atlantic magazine, author of its blog, The Daily Dish. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
This is terrorism, isn't it? Why do people seem reluctant to use the term?
I think because we don't like to think of terrorists as people like us. And I think the psyche wants to separate that act from us, just as we want to separate the act of torture from us. But the act of murder is an act of murder, and an act of torture is an act of torture. And when we do it, it is as bad as if anybody else does it. And frankly speaking, as a believing Christian, I find the idea of murdering someone in a church. Remember, this is a man who was going to church. He was an usher in this church and killed in a sanctuary, which Christians believe, real Christians believe, is a safe place, always a safe place. This murder attacked Christianity. And these people, in the way they demonize private people, these aren't public officials who can take it a little bit of rough, tough out there in the dialogue. These are private people acting within the law, being basically, I mean, not just this murder. He was targeted for months, for years. He was hit before. And if our society can't protect these people doing what is legal, even if we disagree with it, then we're lost, we're finished.
We've seen this whenever a woman's health care provider, or as they're phrased derogatorily in the worst tone to the word, abortion provider, abortionist, late-term abortionist, whenever one is attacked or a clinic is attacked or there's been a bombing in the last 20, 30 years in this country, we've seen the following responses. There has been a pullback. The number of services provided to women has been reduced. There has been an increase in security at these places. It becomes more difficult. And any time you go to one of these centers, there now becomes, at least for a time, the question, is somebody in this crowd a potential assassin? This is not only terrorism, but this is terrorism that works in this country. Well, is that fair to say?
It is, and terrorism, unfortunately, often works. That's why it's used. I do think that, I mean, I'm personally opposed to what he does. I actually don't believe in late-term abortions. But I have to say, on my blog today, a lot of women wrote in and told me their own stories of this. And I was kind of shaken by the fact that most women, almost all women that go to these places, are in desperate straits. The children are very, very deformed or ill or will not survive birth, or the mother's health is directly threatened. These are very grave and difficult circumstances. I think that Dr. Tiller, even though I disagree with him, was acting according to his conscience within the law. And I think our role, those of us who want to end abortion, is to act within our conscience and persuade and testify and peacefully protest, but not engage in this kind of stuff. And, you know, the conservative commentaria, they do bear some of this, not responsibility for the killing, but responsibility for the climate. And the climate, when they call people murderers, when this man, obviously, I think you might objectively believe that this is a taking of a human life, but to call someone murderer is to get at the motives, to demonize him, in the way they demonized him in a way that was really, I mean, if you look at the websites, killertiller.com, this stuff is just evil.
The distance between, or the attempt to put distance between some of the genuine anti-abortion organizations and what happened to Dr. Tiller, given that there was a posting, and these are tenuous connections, but given there was a posting at Operation Rescue, and the woman's phone number from Operation Rescue was found in the man's car, are these? It's difficult to read in the immediate shock of this. Are these attempts to separate the organizations from what happened here? Are they disingenuous? Should they be taken on face value sincerely? How should we read them?
I don't think Operation Rescue, from what I can tell, should be separated from this event at all. This man was absolutely saturated in that organization, very close to its leaders. I do think, however, and I think it's important to say, there are many, the vast majority of people who are pro-life in this country do not believe in this kind of thing, do not believe in targeting or demonizing people, and trying to bear witness to what they believe is true. And I think the president actually has done a good task in trying to find some common ground with people who want to end abortion. I think everybody wants to end abortion, right? I mean, the question is, how do we best do that? And I think unless you're promoting contraception, unless you're promoting adoption, unless you're promoting all the things that can minimize abortion, then I think turning around and calling people murderers is really not part of the solution. It's part of the problem.
Is there any way to read the impact of this on the general, broad-based, reasonable anti-abortion or pro-choice or pro-life, as they want to call themselves, community? Will they recoil from this? Are they sobered by this? Is there somebody out there who's been using this rhetoric who will be circumspect from here on in after seeing what happened?
I think that the vast majority of people who are pro-life, not necessarily activists, but pro-life, will have recoiled instinctively. I think that some of the more hardcore ones are allegedly devout Christians, and I think if they pray and look at what was done, and they can then realize that this thing has gotten out of control, and for the sake of the pro-life movement, it has to scale this stuff back and discipline some of these people and state very clearly that this stuff is evil and it is murder. And some of them, to their credit, have done so. I'm not just talking about Operation Rescue, because I think Randall Terry is the exception, and deranged and I think unpleasant exception to this particular. But a lot of others, I think of Robbie George, who's the leading intellectual, really pro-life intellectual, made a very clear statement attacking this stuff. I think the pro-life movement will reject this overwhelmingly, and I hope they do.
Amen. Andrew Sullivan, senior editor of The Atlantic. Great. Thanks for coming in. A pleasure, sir.
Thank you.